Congressional Budget Office warns of major fiscal crisis. The rapidly growing national debt could soon spark a European-style crisis unless Congress moves forcefully. The Congressional Budget Office has warned in a study that underscores the stakes for Vice President Joe Biden and negotiators working on a sweeping plan to reduce red ink. Some Republican negotiators have already walked out on the panel, and Republicans seized on the report to renew their push to reduce costs in federal benefit programs such as Medicare. The report said the nation's debt is on pace to equal the annual size of the economy within a decade, if not sooner. It warned of a possible sudden fiscal crisis if it is left unchecked, with investors losing faith in the U.S. government's ability to manage its fiscal affairs. At issue is the $9.7 trillion of U.S. debt held by investors in foreign countries like China, the measure that economists deem most important. Government accounts, like the Social Security Trust Funds, account for the rest of the $14.3 trillion total debt. The study reverberated throughout the Capitol as Biden and senior lawmakers spent several hours behind closed doors. The talks are aimed at outlining approximately $2 trillion in deficit cuts over the next decade, part of an attempt to generate enough support in Congress to allow the Treasury to take on new borrowing. President Barack Obama was planning to meet with House Democratic leaders to discuss the status of the ongoing talks. CBO, the nonpartisan agency that calculates the cost and economic impact of legislation and government policy, says the nation's rapidly growing debt burden increases the probability of a fiscal crisis in which investors lose faith in U.S. bonds and force policymakers to make drastic spending cuts or tax increases. As Congress debates the President's request for an increase in the statutory debt ceiling, the CBO warns of a more ominous credit cliff, a sudden drop-off in our ability to borrow, imposed by credit markets in a state of panic, said House Budget Committee Chairman Paul Ryan, Republican, Wisconsin. The findings aren't dramatically new, but the Budget Office analysis underscores the magnitude of the nation's fiscal problems as negotiators struggle to lift the current $14.3 trillion debt limit and avoid a first-ever market-rattling default on U.S. obligations. Democrats and Republicans remain at loggerheads over revenues and domestic programs such as Medicare and Medicaid, with Republicans insisting that the level of deficit cuts at least equal the amount of any increase in the debt limit. It would take more than $2 trillion in cuts to carry past next year's elections. House GOP leaders have made it plain they only want a single vote before the elections. That $2 trillion plus goal is proving elusive, and a top Senate Democrat warned that it would be insufficient anyway. While I am encouraged by the bipartisan nature of the leadership negotiations being led by Vice President Biden, I am concerned by reports the group may be focusing on a limited package that will not fundamentally change the fiscal trajectory of the nation, said Senate Budget Committee Chairman Kent Conrad, Democrat, North Dakota. That would be a mistake. Democratic leaders, however, held a news conference on Wednesday to argue for more economic stimulus measures, such as a proposal floated by the White House to extend a payroll tax cut enacted last year. The move demonstrates the continuing appeal of deficit-financed policy solutions, suggested even as warnings of the dangers of mounting debt grow louder and louder. We absolutely need to reduce our deficit. We know that, said Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, Democrat, Nevada. But economists tell us that reducing spending is only half the equation. The other half is measures to create jobs. With the fiscal imbalance requiring the government to borrow more than 40 cents of every dollar it spends. CBO predicts that without a change of course, the national debt will rocket from 69% of gross domestic product this year to more than 109% of GDP, the record set in World War II, by 2023 or before. CBO's projections are based on a scenario that anticipates BUSH era tax cuts are extended and other current policies, such as maintaining doctors' fees under Medicare, are continued as well. The debt, theoretically, would be far more stable under the Budget Office's official baseline that assumes taxes return to Clinton-era rates and that doctors absorb unrealistic fee cuts. Economists warn that rising debt threatens to devastate the economy by forcing interest rates higher, squeezing domestic investment, and limiting the government's ability to respond to unexpected challenges like an economic downturn. But most ominously, the CBO report warns of a sudden fiscal crisis in which investors would lose faith in the U.S. government's ability to manage its fiscal affairs. Yes, there is such a thing as destiny or fate. In such a fiscal panic, investors might abandon U.S. bonds and force the government to pay unaffordable interest rates. In turn, the report warns Washington policymakers would have to win back the confidence of the markets by imposing spending cuts and tax increases much more severe than if they were to take action now. Anyway, the United States is in bad shape, as are many other countries' economies. In fact, humans have made a real mess of their economies, and they've also messed up the weather, changed the climate, and messed up the political systems all around the world. There is also a spiritual side to everything, and this is what happens when you have a world based on money, where everything is concerned with money, and everything that is done in the name of money or greed. This is also another physical manifestation of the book of Revelation. These are more signs of the end times, transition days, which is a continuing day-by-day process of extraordinary happenings, changes, and events. In other words, everything that's not right must change rapidly or quickly and for the better, because it's about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations. Jeremiah chapter 4, verse 20. Destruction upon destruction is cried, for the whole earth is spoiled. Suddenly are my tents spoiled, and my curtains in a moment. 21. How long shall I see the standard, and hear the sound of the trumpet? 22. For my people is foolish. They have not known me. They are sottish, spoiled children, and they have none understanding. They are wise to do evil, but to do good they have no knowledge. 23. I beheld the earth, and lo, it was without form, and void, and the heavens, and they had no light. 24. I beheld the mountains, and lo, they trembled, and all the hills moved lightly. 25. I beheld, and lo, there was no human, and all the birds of the heavens were fled. 26. I beheld, and lo, the fruitful place was a wilderness, and all the cities thereof were broken down at the presence of the Lord, and by his fierce anger. 27. For thus has the Lord said, the whole earth shall be desolate, yet will I not make a full end. 28. For this shall the earth mourn, and the heavens above be black, because I have spoken it, I have proposed it, and will not repent, neither will I turn back from it. Jeremiah chapter 6, verse 13. For from the least of them even unto the greatest of them every one is given to covetousness and greediness, and from the prophet even unto the priest every one deals falsely. 14. They have healed also the hurt of the daughter of my people slightly, saying, Peace, peace, when there is no peace. 15. Were they ashamed when they had committed abomination? No, they were not at all ashamed, neither could they blush. Therefore they shall fall among them that fall. At the time that I visit them, they shall be cast down, saith the Lord. 16. Thus saith the Lord, Stand you in the ways, and see, and ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, We will not walk therein. 17. Also I set watchmen over you, saying, Hearken to the sound of the trumpet or the warning. But they said, We will not hearken or hear. 18. Therefore hear, ye nations, and know, O congregation, what is among them. 19. Hear, O earth, behold, I will bring evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not hearkened unto my words or my warnings, nor to my law, but rejected it. Yes, the tipping points, or the limits, are being reached rapidly. It's now time for all prophecy to be fulfilled. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered. Also, Revelation chapter 16, verse 8. And the fourth angel poured out his vial upon the sun, and power was given unto him to scorch humans with fire. 9. And humans were scorched with great heat, and blasphemed the name of God, which has power over these plagues, and they repented not to give him glory. 10. And the fifth angel poured out his vial upon the seat of the beast, and his kingdom or nation was full of darkness, and they gnawed their tongues for pain. 11. And blasphemed the God of heaven, because of their pains and their sores, and repented not of their deeds. 12. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings and leaders of the east might be prepared. And the fourth angel has begun to sound.